Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the quarterfinals and semifinals of the Esports World Cup being held in Riyadh in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have got some awesome games. Um, Bad news first. I'm gonna skip the games from the quarterfinals. Reason being, the semifinal matchups were unbelievable. So, I'm sorry to kind of play spoiler. This is what the bracket looked like. You can see it was Arjun Erigaisi versus, I believe that to be Ian Nepomniachtchi. Yeah. Magnus Carlsen, Nihal Sarin, Hikaru Levan Aronian, and Alireza Firouzja and Nodebek Abdusatorov. Sorry, I had to pause there for a second. Alireza and Arjun, as you can see on screen, got through and they will play each other. And on the other side of the bracket, we have the El Clasico of chess, Magnus Carlsen versus Hikaru Nakamura. So we're going to start off. Let's get rid of this for just a second. Alireza Firouzja, Arjun Erigaisi. You guys can't see their scores, right? Nope, got them blacked out. Awesome. This was their first game. So the knockout games were 6 matches long. So it was a best of 6. And then if they were tied, they went to Armageddon. This was the first game between Alireza and Arjun. And Alireza played a very weird Catalan, King's Indian defense, King's Indian attack. A weird system. It kind of divulged into a bit more of a Catalan as the players kind of maneuvered a little bit. A reminder, the time control is 10 plus 0. You can see his queen gets kicked out. And then here h5 gets played, which isn't the best move because of after bishop to g5, you did have h3 right away. But Alireza chooses to play a couple other moves. Now h3 forcing the exchange. And after knight to f6, Alireza is winning if he plays the immediate e4, gaining 2 pawns in the center and getting really nice control, threatening to basically attack the knight. Not quite win it, but cause significant pressure to the black position. He waits for a move by playing rook ac1, but now there's queen d7. And even though you play e4 now, Alireza still being better. We get knight to h7, which hits the bishop. The bishop has to retreat, and now it's rook a8. e5, knight to f8. The knight has time, and d5 is a bit too much. And now he's lost a bit of his advantage. C takes d5, knight takes, rook takes, the queen moves, and we trade off the rooks. And it looks like we're bailing out for an endgame, because you grab a pawn, and we get to this endgame kind of position. About half the pieces have been traded, but Alireza does have a 2-on-1 on the queen side, and that could be very beneficial. You can see he's got eyes there, potentially a 2-0. Arjun can't let that happen. Arjun's been in fantastic form, but here he plays queen to d7. It's the best way he can find to defend the pawn on a7, but it's incorrect because b4 comes. And knight e6, a4, bishop to d4, we pin, and can now bring our king and play a5. And even though we get all of this, f takes e3 is a very simple move for Alireza to find. He's up on time, he's got bishop versus knight, and it's completely winning because of those 2 pawns on the queen side. You can see knight to c7, all he has to find here is bishop to c6, king e7, and now b5, king e6, e4. But interesting, we trade, and now b6. Alireza completely winning. But it's not so simple, because the knight's defending well. And you've got to be careful, because you've got 3-on-2 on your own here, with the king and the pawn. So you've got to be very careful that you don't throw it away, and your king doesn't go the wrong way. King to c4. Now Arjun, you can see, has one move to hold the position. He has to play king to e4. But he plays h4, which allows Alireza to lock everything up. Check. Now king to c5. d4, but b7 comes at just the right time. King d6 threatens to throw it away again because of d3, and we're promoting. So we have to sack the bishop, and now the king has to come. And you can see Arjun has a way to hold. He has to play king to c4. But he wants to go to the king side, king to e3. He miscalculates, and we get into a pawn race. And Alireza is just first. And he queens. And then he gets a fork. And he wins game 1. Breathe. Let's put the image back up there because I don't want to spoil the next game for you. Because we're not done with these players. They drew their second game. So we're back for game 3 with the same colors. We got d4 again, knight to f6, and g3 again. Another offbeat Catalan, but this time a change. Remember last time Arjun wanted to kind of keep the pawn in the center. This time he takes, and we get the knight coming out. And a much more typical Catalan kind of setup. The bishop on e3 is a bit clumsy. Black's been allowed to develop their queen side a bit more and now has pressure and potentially trades off the Catalan bishop. Plays rook to c8. It's given a mistake, but it's not really too much. Rook fd1 and now c5. And you can see Alireza is completely winning if he takes the pawn. Because how do you take back? That's just a free pawn. Queen c7 maybe, but I've got rook ac1. Takes. I can play knight takes b5, which is very fancy. Completely unnecessary. Queen to b6, and now we get all of this. And we bring the knight back. So Alireza is just up a pawn. And we beeline to trade off the pieces. And we... Oh my gosh, rook c1 is so classy. To pick it up as you will. And keep all of your pawns together. Alireza is just up a pawn. Like, I don't know how more simply to put it. And it's 2-on-1 on the queen side. So the more pieces you trade, the harder it is to defend. And this knight, a long time ago, went out to the side of the board. It doesn't belong there. And this game is relatively smooth sailing. We get this lovely check. When, if obviously the idea is queen takes, I take here. And, all my weaknesses are defended. Weaknesses. And this is completely winning for Alireza. So we try to keep pieces on the board with king to g7, but queen b8. Queen c6 keeps the piece on the board, but only for a little bit. Queen e5 pins the knight. We bring the rook back. We keep our king safe from checks. And our pieces safe. We build up. We look for a queen trade. Queen trades are fine. We trade off a set of the rooks. We give check. We trade off the queens into the knight endgame, which can be tricky when you're just up a pawn. Because if everything simplifies, you'll only be up a pawn, and I can sacrifice my knight for it. So this is still going to need to take some skill and some converting. But Alireza is up on time. He makes sure he doesn't lose any of his pawns. He keeps them going, and he pushes them all the way up the board. And eventually, it looks like Black might get something, but Alireza just wins a couple more pawns. And when you've got 1 minute and 30 seconds, and your opponent's got 10 seconds on the clock, it's never good. So Arjun was in a must-win situation. He was in a must-win situation. So was he able to come back? Well, game 4, unfortunately, was a draw. So that takes us to game 5. This is must-win for Arjun Erigaisi. And Alireza has got the white pieces again. Arjun wasn't able... There were chances, but he wasn't able to get much going in his games with white. So we get a very different... We get a Queen's Gambit declined now. Much more solid because Alireza only needs a draw. Arjun's got to play for the win. So he goes for this system. We get the trades. And we get this trade. Alireza is very solid. And there's not much you can do. It's a Queen's Gambit declined, which is a very solid opening. But that's all Arjun could get. He was really trying. It's not easy with the black pieces. And h4. Game's over. You would say, what? Where was the mistake? I don't know. The big mistake here was d takes c4, apparently. This gave Alireza advantage because of queen d5 you hit the queen. Bishop to b5, queen to b7, short castles. The knight came in, which we took, and yeah, from here it was just Alireza starting to bring pieces towards the king side. We didn't allow anything to happen, and rook a7 and h4. And you might say, what's the big threat? Your queen's out the game, and I'm borderline threatening to win it. Borderline, very low key, and that's a weakness. That's a weakness. Your pieces just can't move. You can't move this bishop because that hangs. You can't move your rook because of various sacrificial ideas. You're just bust. So, like it says, play b5, but I don't know if you noticed. Like, what is it? What rook 1 e6? No, rook 1 e6. Boom. And you might say, what if I take? Well, you lose your queen. So you can't take with the pawn, you lose your queen. And we're threatening sacrifice ideas the whole time. Your position is just untenable. If you try and be greedy and take the pawn, rook takes g6 is mate in 3. So unfortunately, Origin era Geisy is out. And that leaves us with Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. Here we are, folks. Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura. This was game 1 of their 6-game set. Magnus Carlsen has got the white pieces and he plays d4. We get d5. And Hikaru goes for this. They're calling it, on chess.com at least, the Austrian variation of the Queen's Gambit declined. It's a very interesting system, because you get your queen booted and you sacrifice lots of development. But as you would have seen in that video, Hikaru is willing to play aggressively, and we get a queen trade with Magnus having to give up the right to castle. So we're heading into an endgame. Sorry, you talk a lot, your lips get dry, it's thirsty, I'm late. I'm thirsty and it is late. Knight to c6, and like this has been played before. You could get a trade, but there's no need to. And it's just about maneuvering. And I don't know what Hikaru was doing, because he gets rocked with knight to d6 check. The sacrifice of a full knight, although not really. Because bishop takes d6 is the best move. But now you get bishop takes f6, and you've got problems. Your rook is hanging. You can castle, surprisingly enough, which is what Hikaru does. But you're just kind of a move behind. You're not down any material, but you've got too many targets. Your pieces are a bit weird. Your king's still weak on the dark squares. And Magnus's pieces are just more active. So I can play rook a c1. I can play g4. And when you go knight to a6, I play rook d5. Obviously, you saw on the computer, rook c2 is better. Rook to d5, the engine doesn't like it, but practically, Magnus is up a minute. And, now I can play rook to d2, the bishop goes back, and Hikaru does defend. And we didn't get a repetition, I'm joking. We trade off the dark squared bishop, so now his dark squared problem, it's still a problem, because these are all controlled by this pawn, which is a weakness because of how far it's gone, but I don't see how Hikaru is going to win it at the moment. His knight's just not in the game at all. So, neither of these pawns can really advance. So Hikaru's got problems to solve, but if there is a problem solver, it is Hikaru Nakamura. Magnus grabs a pawn. You can see, so we had here, knight to b5 was not as winning for Magnus Carlsen because he had just rook to d8 check first. You trade off a set of rooks is the best thing, and then king to e7, and then something like rook a8. This is what the engine vastly prefers, because there's no way to defend this pawn. This is what the engine prefers. for Magnus Carlsen. He doesn't play it. As you saw, he plays knight to b5 and then grabs like this. Still wins the pawn, but the best move for Hikaru here to hold is rook a8, which would force rook to d8 check, and we would still get a position similar to this, but now you have to play like knight to c8 check. I grab here, you grab here, and we would head into this knight endgame. That's what the engine probably prefers. As we do get it, Magnus Carlsen just massages a one pawn advantage. He clamps down on the queen side, the dark squares. You might say, hang on, that knight's hanging. He sacrificed the knight. You can't take it. Alright. Because I've just got king takes f4. So I didn't really sacrifice the knight. Remember, I removed the defender of your knight. Now your rook's hanging. And where do you go? You can play rook b5. F3, maybe. F3. Rook b6. Like, you're going to lose. Rook c2. Magnus Carlsen is not going to lose this position. Unfortunately for Hikaru Nakamura, he was down in the game. This position has no plot twists. Magnus Carlsen finds a fork. He ends up 2 pawns up. They are 2 connected pass pawns, or they will be connected. And it was relatively smooth sailing for the world number 1 at everything. So, Hikaru had to bounce back. And he kind of did. By that I mean, Game 2 was a draw. Game 3, Hikaru won. But Game 4, Magnus Carlsen won. Game 5 was a draw. So going into the final game, Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces had to win. I just realized the result might have been spoiled this whole video. Well, you gotta see how it ends. Let's have a look-see, shall we? Because you don't know how it ends. D4, D5. And we got a Queen's Gambit declined and a Catalan from Hikaru Nakamura. Hikaru using Magnus's tricks against him. D takes c4, and we got a very traditional Catalan with the bishop crawl variation. I've even studied this in the Catalan, and I don't like taking the pawn right away. If I see this, I like to play knight here, because it disallows this, or at the very least you grab the bishop, and then you get the bishop pair. That's how I like to play it, but these players are better than me, so how I like to play it is completely irrelevant. And Hikaru damages his structure, but trades off the dark squared bishops, gets his queen hit once, and then we get a trade of knights. And at this point, you're probably thinking, how the hell did Magnus Carlsen not at least draw this position? It is not symmetrical, but it is very deathly boring. Hikaru gets his queen kicked around a few times, and all Magnus needs at this point is a draw. And Hikaru is just getting his queen booted, and Magnus Carlsen's even better, but Hikaru's got a passed a pawn. And lurking beneath this, there is some tactics. We trade off the bishops, and we play e4, and we play d5, and now we swing the queen this way. We target the knight moves, and now e5. Oh, Hikaru's winning here if he takes in the center. You don't want to do it because you kind of split your pawns, and now they're separate, but this pawn's just clean passing, and it's protected, and you don't have time to grab this, and it's just better. Like, I don't know how to explain it, because now the knight jumps in, we grab this with the rook, Magnus Carlsen misses. You can see Magnus Carlsen here has a drawing mechanism, also has a mechanism for being better, and that's to push his own pass pawn, c3, but Magnus Carlsen looks to trade the rooks, which we do get, but now rook to d8, and Magnus blunders. He plays knight to d2, and just misses knight to f1. Rook a2, queen e3 is good enough. We pick up the knight, and we play queen to d4. And Hikaru Nakamura was victorious. And the game goes to Armageddon. I need to make sure I'm sitting upright, my face center of the screen. We are going to Armageddon. Let me load the Armageddon game for you. No spoilers. Unless you've already seen what happens and you're just here for an epic recap, which I thank you for. Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Armageddon. Whew. Let's go. Magnus got the white pieces in Armageddon. That means Hikaru Nakamura has got 6 minutes. But he's got draw odds. He's come back from the brink of defeat. In that final game, Magnus was better several times. But Hikaru got through it. Magnus plays knight f3 and goes for like a pseudo-English via the ready move order. It is basically in English, and it now is a King's Indian defense. Hikaru's bread and butter. One day I will do a video of the Hikaru Nakamura Immortal, and he was playing the King's Indian defense. It is just about attack. And he doesn't even need to attack, he just needs to draw. Magnus Carlsen is very happy to see this because he needs to play for a win with the white pieces. He does not have draw odds. And we get this very weird structure where Hikaru is given up a pawn on the queen side. And Magnus is winning, he's up a pawn. But you kind of ruin white's coordination because the whole point in the King's Indian for white is that you attack on the queen side. Everything's now locked. I mean, these pawns are right behind each other and this pawn is locked. I mean, if anything, blacks can play. So we get rook takes a5. Rook e1, and now you can see f5. And this is how we do it. This is what Hikaru has to play the position, because he chose to play this, right? Magnus Carlsen's happy to see this. Like, I don't know how to explain it to you. Like, we get the trade eventually. Like, I never liked these positions for white, because I just feel like black's attack is very fast. With, the pawns and the bishop and opening and tactics. But this position's much better for white. It just is. Because you can play moves like bishop to d3, and you can prevent anything from coming to g5. You can plug your knight into e4. And black always has this weakness on d6 when the structure gets locked like this. Not to mention b7's a weakness. And this bishop is just locked out of the game. Like, it's got nothing to fight for on these squares. We look for a trade. Magnus missteps with queen to c2. What is his winning move here? Well, he's got two. He can play either knight to c3 to decline the trade, or he can play knight to g3 to trade in a different way. Because knight to g3, knight takes g3, something like f takes g3 is fine for white. And your pawn controls these squares. This is not a threat at the moment. It's still defended. Because of the rook. It's not a fork just yet. Queen to c2 defends it the wrong way because of the trade. And now queen to f6. Bishop to c3. And g5. Rook to b1. Magnus is like, you do whatever you want on the king side. It's just my king there. I'm going to go look for pawns on the queen side. So b6. Now, by the way, what is this rook doing? What is its purpose in life? It can't go here and it can't actually move. It's tied to this pawn, which you need to protect. Otherwise, white just has a clean pass pawn. And your attack will definitely not be fast enough to deal with that. And you see, Hikaru has to redefend that side. Rook fa8. And now the queen gets hit. And now queen to d3, you can see a5 is completely winning for Magnus. But he plays queen to d3. And he brings his knight back to e3. It's a couple of mistakes, but he's still got the advantage. Kind of. The engine doesn't like it, but I do. And I'm the one doing the video. The engine's not doing the video, so whatever. Rook takes a4. And we get this simplification. And Magnus's bishop is now pinned to his queen. He brings his king over, defends the bishop with knight to d1, the clutchest defensive move ever. And bishop a4. And there is a hidden problem in this position. And that is that you can play queen to b1. And I've got bad news for you. Your rook is not trapped. But if you defend it, or you move it, your queen dies. Gets pinned to your king. So we get bishop takes d1, trying to grab material, because now if we go for this, the queen will just take the rook, you will take back, and the bishop will escape. So we're grabbing material, but you can grab the rook. And now when the queen comes in, there's no escape for it, because there's check, and there's queen to b1 again, now threatening checks on the king. And even though you have this, king to g1, bishop takes c4, it looks like you've just lost the pawn in the center of the board. But we can grab the knight and give check, and we can come back, which is the best part. Because we can kick out the queen and now check, and queen to g6. Game over. Magnus Carlsen advances. And let's see those final moments.
For it with 4 minutes left, hits the black queen, he's going to kick her away, and now he's going to give a check with his bishop. The black king has nowhere to go, the white queen poised to swoop in, and that might just spell the end. Hikaru gets ready to resign, checkmate incoming, it's going to end here and now.
In an incredibly thrilling Armageddon game, pounces on the mistake immediately after. Counter chances for both players, and he edges this thrilling contest to make it into the grand final of the Esports World Cup to face off against Alireza Firouzja. What an incredible match.